Hello. So we are in Miami. We're interviewing a hotshot lawyer today. He represents Elon, Jay-Z, Megan Thee Stallion, Alec Baldwin, and he's sort of part lawyer, part deal maker, part fixer. And this is a guy who asks tough questions for a living, so he interrogates other people. And I'm gonna interrogate him, so hopefully he can take it.
The only thing I'm going to say is the jury got this right.
What you think of Alex Spiro probably depends on what you think of his clients, some of whom are, let's just say, polarizing. What does Elon Musk demand in a lawyer?
What he gets with me is what everybody gets with me, which is I fight the right way, but I fight hard.
With a background in psychology and an instinct for shaping public perception, Spiro has made a name for himself defending the rich and powerful. He claims to have never lost a case, and that track record has carried him into the highest circles of American wealth and influence.
All right, guys.
Hi! And many see him as capable of delivering more than the typical lawyer can.
So many lawyers we see are just lawyers. That's who they've been from day one, you know? And he doesn't come from that mold.
This overstates it, but like the movie Michael Clayton, right? Like he's partly in this rarefied corporate world, but he's also a gangster. I don't think Spiro is doing anything, criminal, but he is doing things that a lot of other lawyers wouldn't do.
I wanted to know more about his goals and motivations, the secrets to his success in the courtroom, and what his next move might be. Alex Spiro, please take the stand. What are the top 3 moves in the Alex Spiro playbook?
Well, nobody can know that, but I mean, the number one rule is that no one should ever know what I'm thinking. The second thing is I am intentionally painting a picture as I go forward that does not reveal everything at the start. So if I give an opening statement, I'm never going to say what ultimately the end of the movie is going to be. That wouldn't make for a very exciting movie. And 3, I'm going to go away from whatever I think the traditional playbook is.
Your first job out of law school was at the Manhattan DA's office, and you cracked a couple of cold murder cases that had been unsolved for years. My understanding is that you were also like knocking on doors saying, give me the cases you don't want.
That's true, and it's not a metaphor either. I literally would go office to office and say, I've got nothing to try this week. Does anybody have a case they don't want to try? And I used to try them all.
Why?
Competitiveness, probably. Desire to get better. And I love being in a courtroom. It's a good feeling to win a case, to solve a case. That being said, I often felt bad. I felt bad with people sitting in prison. I mean, not so much the worst of the worst, but most of the arguments I had with my supervisors at the time were about leniency and psychological intervention and second chances.
Spiro left the DA's office in 2013 and entered private practice as a defense lawyer, first at Brafman and Associates, whose founder, Benjamin Brafman, is known for his famous, some might say infamous, clientele. Spiro started building an impressive roster of clients, many of them athletes, entertainers, and other VIPs. That roster later helped Spiro make partner at the powerful Quinn Emanuel. I'd love to hear how you describe some of your top clients in one word. Elon Musk. I didn't think this would be the toughest question of the day, but...
In one word?
You're speechless.
I don't know that I'm speechless, I'm thinking. It's important to get answers to questions right. Groundbreaking.
Megan Thee Stallion.
Fearless.
Jay-Z.
Genius.
Mr. Beast.
Dynamic.
Alec Baldwin.
Hysterical.
Why do you think people trust you? Like, what do you offer them?
I think that people know that I'll give them what I think is the correct judgment, whether it's unpopular or not. So if they come to me and they say, we want to go down road number 1, and I say that's a bad idea, they know I'll say it's a bad idea. They know I won't just tell them what they want to hear.
Okay, before we go any further, let's bring in a couple of expert witnesses to give more context on Spiro's methods. Bloomberg's Chris Dolmetsch and Max Chafkin have spent years reporting on Spiro's eventful career. How would you describe Alex Spiro?
He believes in himself, or at least he talks like he believes in himself. And, to people who are, big, strong personalities, that's really important.
Isn't it unusual for a lawyer to have this kind of star power?
Well, I mean, there have always been these kind of like TV lawyers who understand that like part of being in the job is representing their client to the public in addition to representing their client in court. Spiro gets and understands that Elon Musk doesn't just want to sell himself to a jury or to comply with the law or find a way to do what he wants to do from a legal or regulatory perspective. Like, he wants to make that case publicly, and he wants to adopt these like very strong boundary pushing positions and defend them, stake them out, and then accept the consequences if he has to.
Spiro first met Musk back in 2018. Musk was in hot water over his infamous pedo guy tweet, referring to a cave diver involved in rescuing a group of teens in Thailand. The diver sued for defamation, and Musk's chances in court didn't look good until Spiro came on board. Spiro's argument to the jury? The tweet just wasn't a big deal.
The only thing I'm going to say is the jury got this right, and we don't have any further comment at this time.
In the end, what he really convinced them of is that he was just joking. It was just a joke. And I think, in a lot of ways, that case shows how, the modern social media environment kind of just opens it up to this, cavalier talk that in past might have led to a defamation victory. And that's one of his core tenets of his practice, is to say, just because you went on Twitter and you said something doesn't mean that you're the worst person in the history of the world.
It is now said by this jury that insults, however grave, however unpleasant, are completely open season on social media.
If somebody's going to say that some minor violation of law, like some, an upgrade, or somebody sends a tweet out, or, violated some horrific law, they have to ask themselves, well, what was in that person's mind at the time? Were they saying to themselves, I'm about to cross some bright line that subjects myself to prison? Were they really thinking that way?
I think Spiro's argument was pretty savvy, and it was based on an understanding of what Elon Musk does. Because there's no law against being an is the thing. And I think one thing that's interesting about that case, not just from a kind of how did he win perspective, but from a sort of business and power perspective, is I think that is what unleashes Elon Musk in a big way. It's what gives Elon permission, not just legal permission, but maybe cultural permission to sort of go wild on Twitter, which ultimately led to his acquisition of Twitter, to his embrace of these kind of extreme political positions.
The Twitter takeover. That one got real messy. You were in the trenches. What worked? What didn't work?
Well, his decision to acquire the company obviously worked. He is glad he bought it, and Elon is very much experimenting as he goes. And that's part of his genius. And so it may, at moments, look, as you put it, messy, but this is what the great experimenters have always done.
What about the method? There was this report that you guys were yelling at each other in a conference room. How does someone like that respond to pushback?
Everybody I advise is used to my pushback. I don't know how they take it. They probably curse me out at times, but I think ultimately, when the movie's over, people will be thankful that I told them the truth.
Elon tweeted, if any judge anywhere can block every presidential order everywhere, we do not have democracy. We have tyranny of the judiciary. This is a direct challenge to the legitimacy of the courts. How does that stand in your eyes as a lawyer?
It would take a lot of time to go through every tweet.
But this one particularly has to do with the law.
I'm not so sure it has to do with me. I have my own views on the system being broken. They're not going to be the same as his views and other views. But I respect the system. I'm just trying to change it in my own way.
All right, time for the court to take a brief recess. Cross-examination will continue after some fresh air.
Alex's thing is pick up basketball. It's what he does all the time. I think half the time he's injured from basketball, but luckily we caught him on a healthy day. And I just want to see him break out of his shell, break out of the lawyer caricature and get a little sense of who he really is.
Spiro's opponent?
You gonna come to my house with all these cameras over here like you're gonna do something? This is crazy.
Two-time NBA All-Star Joakim Noah, a former client.
You look really serious about this thing.
I don't know how we're gonna play on a hoop that's 8 feet tall.
It's from my kid.
Oh, got it.
You want professional?
I thought we were gonna play on a real hoop. Well, I thought you were setting it up so I could dunk a few times before this got going.
Like, you shouldn't have told anybody. You would have been shining.
They can cut that part.
Yeah. Are you sure? You forcing me left?
I'll force you left to start. How many steps is that? Yeah. Big shot.
Turns out, Spiro's competitive streak in court is just as intense on the court.
They're getting really into it. There's a lot of yelling.
Cameras. Ah! Oh, that's my ball. Oh, that hurt my soul.
Did you let him win?
No. I wish
I'm trying to figure out how to evaluate you both because this hoop looks like it's 8 feet high.
It was definitely worked in his advantage.
Uh-huh.
I don't think it worked in my advantage. I think it worked in his advantage.
How'd you guys meet?
I had just signed a big deal with the Knicks, and some girl was saying that she had a baby with me, and somebody from the hospital got on the phone and said that the baby looked just like me. I was just thinking, like, what did I do wrong? Like, did I do something that I shouldn't have done? So I was like, okay, something's fishy. And Alex got on a call from me, and I never heard from this person ever again.
Wow. What'd you say, Alex?
Tell the truth. Don't make stories up.
Exactly. I always felt very protected with Alex, and just our relationship grew off just meeting each other and him helping me out with a situation like that. And then he has the audacity to come to my house and beat me in one-on-one.
I read you charge $3,000 an hour. You're losing money as we speak.
Yes. I'm always losing money. Yeah, I don't talk about my hourly rate, but you know, if I need more free time, it's getting higher.
All right. You're a lawyer, you're a sworn officer of the court. How do you toe the line when it comes to pushing the boundaries on legal theories?
I don't ever argue something or say something in court that I don't believe to be true and supported by the facts and the law. But I'm also not afraid to make a creative argument or tell the truth when it's otherwise unpopular.
You also represent Mayor Eric Adams. Was that creative?
I think everything that I do has a touch of creativity. I'm not just following some playbook. I think the fact that they tried to run him out of town and take him down for this stupid case, I think my ability to stand my ground and stand my ground for him is forceful, whether creative or not.
How you doing, Mayor?
In the fall of 2024, the New York mayor was indicted by a grand jury for fraud and bribery, part of a sprawling federal corruption probe.
My day-to-day will not change.
Adams claimed it was political payback for his criticism of the Biden administration on immigration. Spiro, for his part, argued that his client had merely accepted some trivial travel perks.
This case isn't even a real case. This is the airline upgrade corruption case.
Ultimately, it never went to trial. Trump's Department of Justice asked the judge to dismiss the case, which he did.
There was a public outcry in response to the result there. Mass resignations, people who say they've lost faith in the justice system. What's your response to the response?
Well, when you say mass resignations, the little...
Lawyers resigned.
Yeah,
Lawyers resigned.
Yes, and I don't begrudge them their resignations. I also don't take much from it. I was going to win at trial that case. And I think once there were adults in the room who pointed that out, it's going to be easier to get people to settle, pardon, dismiss, and do other things when you realize, wait a second, are you even going to win this case? When I say somebody should not have been prosecuted, I mean it, and I hope people take it seriously.
The Eric Adams case, what did that tell you about how Spiro operates?
He does think he can win that case before a jury, and especially just in the reasonable doubt realm. You know, he works for the client. He wants to defend his client, and I think that's why he went into criminal defense. I think that's why he left prosecution. There are a lot of cases where he felt, you know, maybe we could be a little less aggressive in these things. Maybe there should be a second chance. Not everybody does something out of, you know, pure criminal intent. He doesn't need to prove that Eric Adams is the greatest person in the history of the world or is a really good guy. He just needs to prove that he didn't really intend to commit a crime.
You started your career in the criminal justice system. When you're not representing high-profile clients, you're on the board of the Reform Alliance, you lecture at universities, you take on wrongful convictions. What's broken about the system?
Pretty much everything. The system is backwards, racist, draconian. I can't say enough bad about it. I'm hoping it changes and is changing over time. And I'm hoping that some of these cases move things forward, like bail reform. And that's my little way of doing what I would like to do even more of.
So what needs to be done to fix it? I mean, I realize that's a big question, but what needs to be fixed?
First of all, the question is, well, what's broken? I mean, putting people in jail on bail because they don't have the economic means to afford bail is not a just system. We incarcerate a higher percentage of the population than any other country on earth. We incarcerate black and brown people in this country at 6-7 times the rate as people that are white or not black and brown. The system has hopefully become at least slightly more fair to different people of different means and different races, but only marginally so. And so, you know, we've got to equal out resources. We've got to keep our eyes open to these real issues, and we've got to keep fighting.
Spiro's legal career has been running on rocket fuel, but he seems to be setting the stage for his next act in the world of business.
How big is the business of Alex Spiro?
I don't think as big as it's going to be in a year. I aim to do things outside of the law, and I will, that I think will be a bigger business than my legal business.
Spiro wouldn't share any details about his business ventures, but he did invite us to meet a certain very, very, very famous athlete who he's partnering with.
Where are we? What is this place?
We're just near, this is where our office is.
This is your office?
Wow.
Your joint office?
It's his office, but I use it sometimes. Just like it's a little barren. What's up, buddy? How are you? How's it going?
You own a collared shirt?
I do own a collared shirt. All right, guys.
Hi.
Thanks so much.
Hi, Emily. Nice to see you too. Thanks for having us. Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You guys want to tell them what happened when Joakim paid me one-on-one today? Joakim Noah and I played one-on-one today.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And you didn't win.
Okay. You want fair and square.
Now we have bum knees, guy.
Yeah, just
I
trying to.
always imagine that when you go against NBA guys, like, could I score points if they tried? Like, if I played LeBron at 21, could I get 3 points?
Right.
I don't think I could.
You can't if he stays on you. If he stays right, but if they give you any space, you could.
If you get lucky and make a shot.
If you get lucky and make a shot.
After a couple more minutes of sports talk, we were kicked out.
All right, all. Thanks so much. Thanks for the time. Cheers.
Thank you, guys.
That was pretty cool. Just Tom Brady. I kept asking Alex what this place is. What do you do here? Stuff. Okay.
Well, that was interesting. Spiro and Brady's business venture is still a bit of a mystery. One thing's for sure, it's time for a drink.
So is this one of your favorite spots?
Yeah, sure. Many favorite spots. This is one of them.
What's Miami living like really for you?
You know, it's relaxing. It's my oasis from the war.
The war. This is peace.
This is peace.
All right. When we met for the first time, you told me you were in war mode. What is war mode?
For better or worse, if I'm very focused on trying to solve a problem, it's hard for me to do other things at that time. Social things, human interactions. So if I'm in war mode, it means sort of everybody get away from me and let me think.
I know you're friends with Francis Suarez, Mayor Suarez. Do you have any fun projects going together?
What I'm trying to do is bring the boring tunnel here and to fix traffic in Miami. And if we do that—
I have noticed the traffic.
Yeah, if I do that, that'll be great because then you can go to your favorite hotspot, not have to worry about rush hour.
So is Elon helping out with that?
Well, he's a man of a lot of ideas and means, and so I think he is going to help, and that's going to make Miami a better place.
You've been described as Elon's consigliere. How do you feel about that characterization?
I don't bother myself much with adverbs and characterizations that people say in the media. It's not productive. I have no control over it, and it's usually a way to get more attention on it, whether accurate or not.
Mm-hmm. Accurate or not?
I hope that my advice is followed. Very much.
What's the biggest misconception about you?
I don't know. You'd have to tell me what the conceptions are.
Well, I don't know if it's the biggest misconception, but I think some people think you just represent bad guys or rich guys.
Well, I don't know what bad guys mean. People are more than the worst thing they've ever done. Obviously, because I represent major corporations and people that are wealthy, I don't know what to say other than that is true. There is a tilt towards people that can afford the way in which I go about practicing law. But what I would say back, and where I start at the beginning, is that my ability to take on those cases and fight the way that I do changes the system for everybody.
What's your relationship with President Trump?
My relationship with the president and with other world leaders is amicable, and I take on certain issues. I don't take on every issue, but if somebody wants to run an issue by me, they can.
We're living in such a charged time politically, socially, emotionally. How do you think we're going to look back on this moment in time?
I think we're going to be embarrassed at the fact that politics and these very strong, ideas and opinions are not being debated anymore, but they're just involved in this violent ping pong game where we're doing things we shouldn't be doing. And I think we're going to look back and regret a lot of this, which is why I've taken some of the recent stands that I have. I don't want anybody taking vengeance on anybody. I want everybody to just, starting tomorrow, let's go cold turkey. And if somebody who's a world leader or a political candidate violates a very large standard deviation beyond the law, have at it. But if not, the problem is that everyone's going to lose trust in the system, and it's going to hurt everybody.
I feel like people already have lost trust in the system.
Well, the point of these cases is, from my perspective, what I am trying to accomplish is to bring that trust back. The political sphere is so mired in this nonsense that I am still hopeful that we all just decide to stop. We won't attack political enemies in either direction, and everybody moves forward.
We were talking earlier about what are the parallels between basketball and lawyering.
Only you can answer.
You gotta have grit, man, like you did when you play. You gotta have grit.
I realize you do have something in common because you're both good defenders.
He's not that good of a defender.